So I am here with our Director of Winemaking, Stephanie Jacobs, and our Vice President of Operations, Erin Fishleder, to talk about the release of our 2018 Syrah. So Erin, can you tell us what were some of the highlights of the 2018 growing season?
You know, it's so funny. 2018, I think the one thing I remember most was that it was saved by those spring rains that we had, late winter rains. It was a really dry winter going into the season, and having that extra water in the soil as the crop was formed and we started to prepare for harvest really helped us to produce a high quality crop. We did have some heat spikes, but the vines weathered them well. And in general, it was a lovely growing season, nice and long. We didn't have any rushed harvest. It was really just a beautiful season.
Great. Stephanie, can you walk us through the process of winemaking for the Syrah?
Well, the basic process for the red winemaking is the same for Syrah. So we sort at the cluster stage, destem the berries, and then we hand sort the berries, ferment in stainless steel tanks, and then we move it to barrels and have secondary fermentation take place in barrels, and the wine stays in barrels for the rest of the aging process. What is unique about the Syrah is that we do a portion of whole cluster fermentation. So instead of destemming and removing the fruit from the stems and the clusters, we will add a small percentage to the bottom of the tank and ferment as whole clusters. And the reason for that is it's a little bit more difficult to extract some of the tannin that way. So we use it as a tool to kind of temper the tannin extraction to create a nice soft wine. Another way we do that is we ferment with Viognier. So we will co-ferment a little bit of the Syrah with the Viognier to give it kind of a silkier texture and also add a little bit of bright red fruit aromas to the wine.
How much Grenache is blended in and for what reason?
We do blend in Grenache. It varies from year to year. This particular vintage, the 18, is 11% Grenache. Grenache adds a nice bright red fruit character to the wine, the raspberry, cherries, that pairs really well with dark fruit characters and some of the savory notes that Syrah has to offer.
Great. Erin, so Syrah comes from our Suscol Springs Vineyard. What makes this vineyard so unique, and why does Syrah grow well there?
You know, we have several vineyards in this area of Napa. It's in the southeast on hills. The vineyards are all planted on the hills southeast of Napa, overlooking the town. Lots of rocky soils, well-drained soils, which is important when you're growing red varieties like Syrah and Grenache. And, you know, the site, it benefits from warm days and cool nights. Most ripening occurs actually at night. So having those cooler temperatures helps with the ripening process. And the fact that we're not growing Syrah up valley where daytime temperatures can be really warm, you know, and where you run the risk of damage to the fruit as a result of that is another bonus. I mean, this site is just perfect for these varieties.
Thank you. So Stephanie, how do you determine how much new French oak to use during aging, and how long do they spend aging, and how does that compare to other varietals we create?
Well, the Syrah has typically about 40 to 45% new oak. It does vary from vintage to vintage a little bit. I use a variety of forest and toast levels just to add a layer of complexity, but not be so obvious that you really know it's there. So compared to Cabernet, which is a little bit higher in percent of oak, because Cabernet has much more firm tannin structures that takes a little bit longer to evolve. So Syrah has less oak and also ages a few less months in barrels because it is a little bit softer and more fruit forward.
So finally, I would love it if you could share any memory you have with Syrah, Stephanie.
Well, I do remember the first time that I worked with Syrah. It was a big upright wood tank, and I'm sitting on a ladder doing a pump over with the fire hose method at the time. We didn't have nice little sprinklers that distributed the wine evenly. So we sit up at the top of the tank with a hose and we move it around to get all the cap wet. But what really was really striking about the Syrah is that when Syrah is fermenting, it has this really bright fuchsia color to it. And so it's just amazing to see this bright pink foam at the very top. And this is characteristic of Syrah. It's just a very pretty wine to ferment.
Thank you both very much.